Question: what do you mean when you call blockchain a governance technology? I think it's helpful to think of blockchain as a state machine for the new internet. In other words, keeping track of who owns what and who has done what to these assets of value. And there's three things I think that are different about blockchain compared to what we've had before. I think of governance as being about ownership and about control of that ownership. So these assets of value could be anything, but I think the first thing that's different is increasingly this is data, a new type of data that is going to be driving the data or digital economy to come. This data is owned and controlled by the right person, by the owner of the data, the originator of the data, the consumer, quite possibly. And bear in mind, this is a new type of data set. This is not the digital dust of what websites you've been viewing. This is about ownership of monetizable new types of data in the new digital economy to come. Secondly, the control and ownership of this data is not just with the owner, but it is validated and ordered by a community. So it's decentralized and distributed ownership. And then thirdly, this is a new type of data. This is about building new business models and new ways of working. You know, for example, we've never had autonomous cars. We've never had electric cars. We've never had power in your battery. We now have an energy crisis here in Europe. The data around what battery have I got, how much power is in my battery, where is my car, all of these things are new types of data. Question: does this mean it's a better governance tool than existing ones? Does it open up new business opportunities? Well, this governance and control, as I said, there are two things that are different over what we have before. So right now, the folks who keep a record of who owns what is centralized. It's the land registry. It's the bank for your money. Now it is the owner that is governing their data along with the community of which they're a member. And I think what's critically important, at least the way I look at it, is it's not as if I'm looking to replace the land registry. You know, that does a perfectly good job. It's not even as if I'm looking to replace necessarily your bank account. Again, that does a perfectly good job. What I'm looking to do, I think, is to enable the building of this new digital economy. You know, so we have an agricultural economy that we know and love. We have an industrial economy that we know and love. And we're starting to get to grips with the digital or data economy, the token economy. But we're only starting to get to grips with it. And I think this new data is going to drive an economy even bigger than the industrial economy that it precedes. But this is a new type of data. This is not what websites have I looked at, what digital dust have I left behind so I can sell advertising. This is about how can I use data to get a better understanding of the world around me and solve the new problems that we're being hit with. So let's take the energy crisis, right? So right now we have an energy crisis here in Europe, caused by the fact that countries like Germany especially have moved into renewables like wind and solar, which is great when the wind blows or the sun shines, but it's very hard to store energy. And when the wind doesn't blow and the rain and the sun doesn't shine, you've got to get your energy from somewhere else. And they've been using gas, and hence the problem. Well, as we move into this world of autonomous cars, electric cars, then we can start to build new business models. So, for example, my car is basically a battery on wheels. It may be sat there doing nothing all day. That's a lot of money to be sat around doing nothing. So first of all, I could use this as part of a decentralized storage for a new decentralized grid. So why don't I charge up my battery in my car when energy is cheap, when the sun is shining and the wind is blowing, and then sell it back to the grid when energy is expensive. And I can sell it back as part of a peer-to-peer transaction within members of my community. I can put solar panels on my roof and we can start to build a decentralized grid. And what we're looking to do is not to repeat the problems of the Facebook model. So when we started realizing that the digital dust of where you have been on the website, on the internet, was useful for advertisers, we gave that data away to Facebook in return for services. And I think many of us have thought, well, that wasn't such a good deal. Now we have a whole load of new data which we didn't have before, as we start to digitize and instrument everything around us. So there's a whole load of new data as AI and IoT are coming into the mix. And again, we need to be careful not to give away this data. We want to be in control of it this time and not repeat the mistakes of the past. Let's think about that autonomous car again. Also, we have new models where you might say, well, why do I need to own a car? Or if I do own a car, it's a business. So if my car is sat there doing nothing, well, the car can have a wallet with tokens in it. It can transact on the internet. It can identify other identities, known identities with a reputation, for example, and it can be lent out as part of a sharing economy. It's an autonomous car. It can drive to where it's needed. It can be rented out for a few hours and come back. So I'm sweating my asset in the sharing economy. But the point is, this is new data. Where is my car? How much power does it have in its battery? Is it plugged into the internet via a smart charger? New data, and not repeating the mistakes of the past with a new ownership model. So what are the key gets rights in building a blockchain network that leverages the value of this governance capability? Any examples you can give? So what are the key get rights? Well, I'm going to look backwards, first of all, over the last 5 years, and then look forwards. And I'm going to be a little bit controversial here and say that in the past, if I look at the blockchain networks that have been built, they sit in one of two worlds. They're either sitting in the private permissioned world, the enterprise world, or they're sitting in the crypto world. And from my perspective, both have been actually quite unsuccessful over the last 5 years. And why is that? Well, I think if we look at the enterprise, first of all, I think the enterprise has taken the mantra of blockchain good, crypto bad, and it has set to solve problems in the world as it is. It has set out to solve problems within the existing business models of how things are done today. And as a result, I think anything to do with this new ownership model and this new social contract has been whittled away, and you've ended up with something which is tantamount to a central database. And everybody's looked at this and said, well, where's the blockchain? Why am I doing this? If we turn to the other side and look at the crypto world, it's very abstract, and it's very hard to find any real use cases linked into the real world and linked into new problems like this energy problem, tokenization of energy we were just talking about. So again, very difficult to see any utility and just kind of pure speculation in the valuation models behind the tokens. And I think what we need to do moving forward is to have the best of both worlds and bring them both together, where we have this new social contract, this new incentive model based around ownership of a new type of data driving a new economy. So this is the IoT plus AI plus blockchain. But we have the rigor of the permissioned world where we need it. So we have the data, around the cars and the batteries and the charging points and the roads and the houses and stuff. So we have that data from the enterprise world, but we have the incentive model from the new world. And I think one of the things that's interesting is I think the The permission side really is where we crack identity and compliance. So in the world today, banks are effectively putting KYC and AML against every single transaction that goes through the banks. And increasingly, we're moving in a financial surveillance world. And each bank is kind of doing their own thing. There's no kind of common solution. They're all kind of complying with the legislation in their own way, interpreting it in their own way. I think in this new world, what you have is you have a permissionless marketplace where the identity is the wallet address. But you have AI, which is looking for, a machine learning, which is looking for patterns, suspicious patterns. And then when you hit something, then you are then linking your MetaMask wallet, your permissionless wallet, with a permissioned set of credentials on a permissioned hold, issue, verify cycle, where we can start to understand who is behind that transaction. We're using a zero knowledge proof, so we're disclosing the minimum amount of information. This is a UK taxpayer, this is a Swiss taxpayer. Gradually drill down. So we're doing things by exception, and we can get to the KYC AML if we need to, but we're building this in a much freer, more permissionless environment. So does this create a new type of trust? Well, again, if we look backwards and we look forward, so we look backwards, the world as we know it, you want to buy your house, you go to the land registry, you want to make a payment, you go to your bank. We have, certainly in the UK, we have plenty of trust in our institutions, and things work very well. As we move to the future and we move to the digital economy, we have this whole new trance of data which is being born as we instrument everything, IoT everywhere. We have a whole load of new data. Where is your car? Where is the lorry? How full is the lorry? What is the temperature in the container? What is happening in the world right now, this instant? How can we use this knowledge to drive and data to and the insights which are learned from that data, the analytics and the understanding, to drive innovation? And it's that data which is driving the innovation. And we've kind of got two choices here, I think. We either carry on in the way we've done things in the past with the Facebook type model. So you give away your data to get these free services. Or we say, well, hang on, we've been burnt by that. We don't want to repeat the mistakes of the Facebook model. We don't want these single points of control, these platforms in control. We want to have a decentralized and a distributed model. We need a new type of trust for this new type of data, for these new types of business models. And I think that's the trick, is when we look at blockchain, is not so much fixing the world as it is, but building a new world with a whole load of new data and with a new trust model, which is decentralized and distributed. Question, in a world where we've relied on personal relationships and independent middlemen to create trust, will this digital kind of trust really catch on? Well, I think I've kind of answered that question already, really. And we're not looking to lift and shift. We're not looking to optimize the world as it is. We're not looking to take existing business models and replicate them in a disintermediated form. I think what we're doing is we're saying, well, we're creating a whole load of new data. We're building a whole load of new business models based on this new data. And you've got a choice. It's binary. You can either perhaps take the easy route and go for the Facebook model and say, I'll give away my data for these free services. Or you say, as a company, my data is my most valuable asset. As a consumer, my data is my most valuable asset. Over my dead body, am I going to do that? In which case, we need this new trust model for this new economy. And that's certainly the way that I think.